Welcome to Rhythms That Restore. I'm your friend Cerise that's ready to journey beside you. Let's learn rhythms that can restore our minds, hearts, bodies, and spirits, and allow us to walk confidently in who God has called us to be. Are you ready? Pull up a chair. Let's get started. Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Rhythms That Restore. I am so grateful that you guys are here. Thanks for pressing play. Thank you for pulling up a chair today. I am not by myself. It is me and my friend Amy. I'm so honored, you guys, to have Amy here at the table with us today. Whether you guys are listening at home or you're listening in your car, which is where most of us are these days. I am thrilled to have Amy here. Amy and I have been trying to connect for over a year. And now I know exactly why the timing was this month, because this month we've been walking Amy through becoming. And becoming is what we're all called to be, becoming more like Christ every single day. And I loved that it finally worked out, that you could be here and be a part of our conversation. And of course, as always, you know, the mission of our podcast is to be able to point one another back to God's word and point one another back to Jesus. And so I knew, you guys, through Amy and her story and how she is working with women, that it would be a beautiful fit. And I have so many curious questions that I told Amy. I said, I can't wait to ask them myself. And I'm thrilled to be able to share them with my friends. But Amy, first, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I know it's going to be great.
Yes, it's so fun. Amy's in Florida, y'all. If you're watching on YouTube, she is in sunny Florida, and we are here in Memphis. And in a very
beautiful. It's 70s right now. This is a great time to come visit the Panhandle.
I don't understand how it's in the 70s in Florida and it's 95 in Memphis, Amy.
I don't know. I don't understand it either. I just soak it in.
I know. Yeah. Amy lives in the paradise that we all drive down to and love to come see. It's great. So let me tell everybody, Amy, a little bit about you. I said, Amy, tell me a little bit, like, how would you describe yourself in bullet points? I'm going to tell you all that first, and then I'll tell you guys Amy's professional accolades. And then we're going to dive into our conversation about becoming, and specifically becoming refreshed. I think what a message for all of us in September, when we are back to school and we're coming off of the summer, but trying to get back into a rhythm. Yeah. I think that all of us are truly at this point this week where refreshment sounds really good. So Amy's going to tell us all about that. But when I said, Amy, tell us a little bit more about you, she said, Cerise, I am a foodie. Which I am so excited. Everyone listening, right? We love, Amy's a foodie. She loves a good meal with friends and family. She loves sports, especially football and baseball, which we are in, I don't know, maybe both those seasons, but for sure football. We're in that season over here too. Amy said she loves to go to the spa to unwind. And Amy, you also say in one of your accolades that spaing is one of your pastimes.
Oh yeah, I gave it its own name.
I think I'm going to embrace that as a hobby. I could be a spar.
That's why when my old self was a workaholic, my husband said, you need to find a hobby. So he wished I picked a little less expensive hobby, but that's how that came about.
I mean, it's fitting. It's, we're going to talk refreshment. And now we all know that can be a legit pastime, is spying. Yes. Amy loves to stretch people to think bigger and make an impact on others' lives. And we know that that's true for all of us that have watched your journey, Amy. We know that's exactly who God has used you to be. And she also loves to travel. So we're going to find out a little bit more about that. But then, Amy, I'm going to read everybody a little bit more about your professional accolades, just so they can know more of your story. Amy is an influencer, a speaker, motivator, and a mentor for women. She is a successful entrepreneur who is sought after to speak and train for groups and organizations. She has addressed audiences in excess of 12,000 women. Amy's mission is to help women understand their unique gifts God put inside them and how they can use those to make a positive difference while still honoring their priorities. She offers mentorship programs, masterminds. I love her masterminds, and coaches women one-on-one. Amy is also a national sales director with Mary Kay and leads a group of incredible women to help them grow internally, eternally, and externally. And I think that's phenomenal for all of us as women. She also loves serving her church and community. She has led women's biblical leadership small group for the last 9 years. I know she's just coming in from Bible study, you guys, as we're talking right now. She was a leadership coach at Christ Fellowship and now helps lead the high school girls youth group at her current church, Destiny. Amy also serves in the Junior League of the Emerald Coast, where she has been in charge of training the development of women and helps with the outreach of children in need. Amy was the trainer and educator of Network Professionals Incorporated for several years, where she helped train and equip professionals in a variety of careers. Amy's additional interests are spending time with her family, boating, spotting, and worldwide travel. To date, she has visited over 15 countries, including China, Latin America, Caribbean, and nearly all of Europe. Amy also enjoys reading with a good cup of coffee and deep conversations with girlfriends, which is why she's here today, y'all.
Love it.
But Amy and her family live in Shalimar, Florida, and she's been married to her husband, Will, for 17 years. And they have 3 children, ages 12, 10, and 9. You guys. So Amy is in the thick of it. We were just talking about parenting and marriage, and it's incredible to be able to learn from friends who are walking right alongside of us. You know, they say we should always have women who are above us, gone before, women who are right beside us, walking friends, and then women who are maybe just starting out, that we can grab by the hand and pull them along. And so when we journey with each of those types of friends, it really helps equip us. And that's really what you're all about, is equipping women, Amy. So again, welcome.
Yay. Thank you for having me. I love it.
So Amy, let's dive in. I really do. I want to know more about your story and how God has brought you to this place where being refreshed is really a main theme in your life right now. So maybe even take us back to where God started working in your heart.
Yeah. I think that God takes us on these different seasons, that he's always calling us deeper. And I remember him kind of giving me this vision of water. I love water, and kind of like being in the shallow end. And then like for him, like literally taking my hand, taking me deeper. And then I remember when he then kind of told me, this is what I want you to do for women, that women were just playing in the shallow end. And that like burdened my heart. And I think for leaders, that it all starts with your heart burdening for something. And I actually was praying for that. I said, like, Lord, burden my heart. And I kept thinking something that was going to be something different than it was. But of course, I've always loved women. I've always been a champion for women. So then it does make sense. But it was really, that's how it really started, was this burden. And when God gives you a problem, it's to solve it. And I felt this kind of compelling mission to solve this problem of what I was seeing women playing in the shallow end, getting their priorities distorted, not really keeping the main thing, and even saying that they were. But again, it was so shallow. And I knew that he'd always called me deeper. In fact, it's kind of funny. My husband and I joke till this day. He said he knew he had never met anybody like me. It was on a pretty soon date. We were at my very first apartment, and we got in the hot tub at my apartment. I had a whole list of these like little questions written up on these little cards. He said he remember calling his mom going, I have never met someone so deep. So I really like to just get past the surface conversations, go right into the deep. But that was where it kind of all started personally for me, and then just the burden to bring women deeper.
Absolutely. And let's go deeper on that. Where do you think, like, even define that, Amy, for women who are like, okay, I understand that, but what does that mean, Amy? How do I even know if I'm walking in the shallow end?
I think that number one, you would go to the Lord and say, do you have more for me? Because he always does. I don't care if you do feel like you're in the deep end, the middle end, the shallow end. He always can take you deeper. And that was really a shift for me when I realized that, because I was probably like a lot of women. I thought I was in the Word. I was doing quiet time. I mean, for years at this point, when the Lord kind of showed me this, and it gets me so excited. I mean, it almost makes me emotional because I want everyone listening to go, I want you to be excited that there's so much more. There's so much more for me. There's so much more for you. Like there's just always so much more. So we're all at different journeys on our walk, on our path. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter where you are. There's always a place to go deeper. If you think you're the deepest, I promise you can go deeper. And I mean, again, you may be going to church, you may be reading the Bible and doing quiet time, but do you know him? Like, do you know him? Because being in prayer is a conversation. You and I are just having a conversation right now. That's all it is talking to God in prayer. But how many times are we selfish Christians, which I know I was for a very long time, and God, can you do this for me? God, can you do this? And I would praise him and I would thank him, but are we stopping to listen to him? And I think that's what most people are not doing. That's what I mean. If I had to define the shallow end, is you probably have your list of things for God and you are thanking him and you are doing all the things, you're checking all the boxes and even have maybe some really good rhythms and habits, but have you stopped to listen? And then have you actually obeyed if you heard? Because that's a whole nother level where he wants to take us.
Absolutely. And when we look around in our society today, our society is really good at telling us to do more. Do all the things, check all the boxes, but it's not necessarily that God's not asking us to do that. He is asking us to show up and to be with him and like asking us, can you step into this space with me and allow you to just be held and to be loved by me without needing to do anything, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know that people realize, like when we hear it's noisy, it's busy, because we all can just say that. I mean, right? Like we hear that multiple times a day. Hey, how are you? I got to rush here. I got to rush here. And it's almost where we wear it as like a badge of honor, especially as women, as moms. It's like who's busier? It's almost like this unspoken competition, of feeling like we have to prove this thing. And it's subconsciously, I think we're not like trying to do it. And that was really why I wanted to do, the refresh. I know we'll talk about that. But because I just saw that what women thought, okay, yeah, I could just have a quiet time of 15 minutes. And not that that's bad, but if you're constantly looking at the clock going, okay, I only have 15 minutes, because that is our life. That is our reality. We cannot just, sit. And I know I love talking about like Mary and Martha, right? And a lot of women leaders, we're the Marthas, we're the doers, and we need those women. And I think God gives us the ambition, right? I don't think ambition is bad if we're doing it for his kingdom. But he does clearly tell us, what Mary is doing is better. And so I think there does need to be these, this balance in our life of being the Martha and being the Mary and sitting and listen, because the reality is, if all the things that you're doing, your to-do list and the Martha things that you're doing, if it's not what God spoke for you to do, if it's not what he's calling you to do, there will not be eternal fruit. And that's where women are exhausting themselves and feeling overwhelmed all the time, because why are you even doing that thing? So that's where I think this whole, like you said, society of women so exhausted, God didn't design it like that. When you are doing the thing that he called you to do, yes, it's not going to always be easy. It's going to be hard and there's going to be times, but for the most part, it's not going to be this exhaustion. And we've got to get back to, what has he called you to do? And then when you're walking in that obedience, you get to experience God in so many ways. And when you're walking out of that, which is disobedience or delayed obedience, because once he's told you and he's revealed it to you, at that point, it becomes disobedience, however you want to shape it. We miss out on experiencing this abundant, beautiful life he has for us.
Absolutely. So I'm wondering, for women that are like, yes, I hear that. And maybe they are walking right now in exhaustion because they have been spinning their wheels doing what's not theirs to do. Do you think that when women can start quieting the noise, saying no to the things that are not their calling, is that, Amy, when they're really stepping into that refreshment?
Yeah, but I don't think it's a one-time deal.
Yeah.
I think that it is a revisiting. In fact, one of the things, in my mastermind that I think has made such an impact I've heard for women is that when we teach this weekly reflective rhythm that I really encourage them to do and to take that time. So when we do our annual retreat, that's when I think God's going to download. He's going to reveal things. You're going to get breakthrough and fresh revelation. But then you got to take that and then you have to review that several times and kind of ask God, search me. How am I doing on this? And see what he says, or even having, I love what you started with, Cerise, like how you said there's women that are going to be before us. There's women that we're meant to mentor and women that we need to mentor by. And that's just discipleship at its best right there. So having those women that are going to say, how are you doing on that thing? You know, I know there's things right now in my life that I am so grateful that I had the space, because how many of us had a goal? Let's be honest. How many of us have had a goal? We felt the nudge from God, but years went by and we didn't act on it.
Yeah.
And so I can think of several times, and we can get into, you know, if you want some examples of this, but, you know, of times when God spoke things to me and that like I knew I had to act on them. I knew that he was showing it to me, and I knew if I didn't step into that obedience, like I didn't want what was on the other side of that disobedience, because I've experienced that.
And it's funny how it just keeps coming back. If you push it away, it comes back, doesn't it?
Right. Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I have heard it said too, like sometimes it will come back in threes, you know, like it might be that you hear a nudge or you feel it in your heart, and then a friend speaks that same word, and then somebody else asks you and you're like, oh, okay. So those are opportunities when God is really trying to get our attention, right? When he is using lots of different people to communicate the same message to you.
Absolutely.
So how do you think, Amy, and you shared this with me a little bit, how moving from like our head to our heart, how do we move this information? Maybe that like we've grown up in church. Maybe some of us have, maybe some of us are just hearing this now. Maybe we're new believers, new Christ followers. How do we move some of this information that we are absorbing through being in God's word or showing up and listening to a sermon in person or online? How do we move that, Amy, from our head to our heart?
So this may not be the most popular thing people want to hear, but I am a big believer in fasting. And it has really been a game changer for me from going from head to heart. You know, I think that's like the biggest thing. And it first starts with us, right? Anything God tells you to do, I think we do it, and then we can teach it, we can show it and encourage others. And so now I've been doing it for years, but now encouraging other women. And I remember, gosh, it was probably almost a year ago. Yeah, it was actually about a year ago. And I was at our kind of spiritual renewal night, worship night at our church. And I just felt so strongly that God was like, you need to fast for your man. But I knew right after that, he was like, not just you, I want your women in your community, tell this. And so I went back and I was like, ladies, I'm just telling you, whoever wants to do it, I just know that God said I needed to say that this is what we should be doing. And when I tell you, there's women who had never fasted before, and stories of just miracles that happen. I mean, a husband just completely doing a 360 and turning around that had been prayed for years. My friend that lost her son, and we all walked through this journey, who was one of my son's best friends a year and a half ago. She had never fasted. I mean, you know, she was on this whole faith walk since that had happened, the accident of her son. Well, she decided to fast with us. And during the doctors had told them they couldn't get pregnant, you know, again, all that after this happened. Well, come to find out, while she was fasting for her husband, he had been praying to get pregnant, and they got pregnant during the fast. I mean, it still just gives me chills. So I could just say stories upon stories and even things for me. And the other thing is that I've only done this once of a sabbatical. So I've done fast. I'm fasting right now because I always fast right before my retreat. And so fasting, let me just say, because I don't want to assume everybody knows. Okay. It's not like, oh my gosh, you can't eat for 21 days. That's crazy. Okay. And remember, I'm a foodie, people. Okay. So, but you do give something up that you love. And so being a foodie, a lot of times I give up sugar because that is my like go-to. And it's this, you know, bad habit I have. So it's hard for me to give that up. So you just give up something to gain a closer relationship with the Lord. Or a lot of times, I'm fasting for something specific, maybe for my husband for something, or maybe it's for a situation or an answer, right? So a lot of fasting comes because you're so desperate for an answer. You're like, Lord, I have been praying about this. I need breakthrough in this area. Or Lord, I need an answer. What should I do? So that's usually what I tell people to go to. And then I did a 3-day sabbatical where I did just prayer and fasting and water and herbal tea. I did get to have herbal tea. And man, something that was so profound, 2 things during that time, Cerise, that God revealed to me. One thing that was very specific. He said, I want you to bless 3 single moms, and told me to raise how much money for each one, $1,000 for each one, but not just to give them the money, to be able to bless them in ways like, so we had a survey asking them, like, what would they do in the perfect day if they could, or what do you wish you could do for your kids that you can? So we were able to do like, gymnastics lessons, soccer lessons, Christian therapy, send one to a spa day, have a home gym for one. I mean, all these amazing things. And then we gave them Walmart gift cards, whatever left over. But see, this is how I know when you are moving, when God tells you to do something and you're obedient in that, you don't have to do it in your own strength. Yeah. And I had just moved here. Okay. So I was living up here less than a year when I did this. And somehow I filled this room of women to raise this money with like 60 something women. I had women later tell me that they had to leave because they couldn't find a parking spot. Okay. Let me tell you, I've been doing events for a long time. Okay. It's really hard to get people in a room. All right. It's very hard to get people into a room. And so that happened. Do you know we raised within 50 cents of the goal?
Unbelievable.
So God is so good. So because I saw that, it makes me hungry to do it again. I'm like, God, show me. Because as selfish Christians, we're like, God, do this for me. But when we really go deeper and we mature as Christians, it's like, what are you doing? What are you up to in the world, God? And I want to be a part of that. And so that's something, it's small, but it's big in the kingdom. And sometimes we just feel like we're waiting for these big things to do. And if it's not this big, massive undertaking, it's too small, but it's not. That, those single moms, those families, and all the women that were a part of doing that, it will forever change them. Yeah. And the other thing he spoke to me at that sabbatical that he reminds me of often, because like you said, we go around the mountain. He said, this is a season with family, and you can enjoy your family while you wait for the next thing, or you can be miserable while you're waiting. And I wish that I listened immediately, because I did have to go through some misery. And so he brings us back up over and over again. But as I've unpacked that now, that was years ago that I did that, I thought it wasn't that he wanted to be miserable. He was actually wanting me to enjoy these beautiful gifts, right? We had just moved to kind of my dream home, and like, he wants me to enjoy that. And it was really hard, honestly, Cerise, for a long time to feel like I had permission to enjoy the things. So if there's anybody listening, I just want you to know that God wants you to enjoy your life. You are not meant to just, work and be miserable. And, he wants that for you. Just like a kid, we just celebrated my son's birthday. I loved giving him gifts and lavishing just because I love him. And that's what our Lord wants to do it with us. He wants to give us these blessings and these gifts, but also because we're obedient. He loves us. He wants to give them to us, whatever. But, it pleases him to be obedient. So how do we get away from being like just pleasing others and just pleasing him? And that takes a lot of courage and boldness to do that.
Wow. There are about 3 mic drop moments in there, Amy, that I'm sitting with. That's so true. We don't have to please others. The only person we are called to please is him. And he has such lavish love that he wants to pour upon us. And just think as a parent, or, think of, if you're not a parent, think of your parents and how they just want you to come to them. They just want you to curl up on their lap, and they want to wrap their arms around you. And that is so what our Heavenly Father wants to do with us. So
and it would be sad, if you think about it. I know we both kind of have teenagers now. So, if our kid is just coming to us, give me money, give me this, I want this, can you make me this? It's kind of like, geez, we just would love that they would just come up and hug us or cuddle us or say, I love you, or, hey, thanks for dinner.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so think about that for our Lord. I just think, gosh, I feel bad now looking back because I did that for so many years, but
Mhm.
it's okay for a toddler, right?
Mhm.
But we should grow up sometimes. And so
Mhm.
it's okay if our kids are doing like that, but it gets to a point where we expect them to mature and understand these things. And I think
Mhm.
it's the same in our walk.
Mm.
We can't stay a toddler or a teenager forever. There comes a time that we, need to mature and just go to him.
Mhm.
And that's what happens. And I just wish that more people would understand that it is the most important thing with your time. And I know when you and I were talking, Cerise, we talked about this, like, why don't people have more quiet time? And I said, it's not a time thing, it's a heart thing.
Yeah.
Because if somebody truly knew how much they were loved and they have experienced that kind of love, they
Mhm.
would want to be doing that. They would
Mhm.
they would make that,
Mhm.
a priority, and
Mhm.
not just go to him when you need something. It's not the last resort, it's your first response to everything. And you
Mm.
just go to him, and because you love him and you want to spend time with him. And that experience and that quiet time looks very different than just bringing what you want.
Mhm. Mhm. I'm so glad that you talked about fasting and spending time with him. And I think that fasting is definitely not something we either hear about a lot, or maybe it's not popular because we are having to make a sacrifice. We're
Mhm.
having to say no to ourselves, which we do not like to do.
Right.
But it helps capture our focus, and it takes the focus off of us and puts it onto him, and allows us to truly open our hands and surrender and say, Lord, I give it to you. Give whatever that is to you. And I'm looking to you. Like I am not, you are. And so I'm so grateful that you talked to that, because that does allow us to draw deeper. It allows us to move from the shallow end to the deeper end. And fasting, being in his word, and intentional prayer for sure. And like you said, prayer, you guys, I know that sometimes women and men can be intimidated, but prayer is just a conversation. There's no special, no magic words. It is truly just opening up your heart and being vulnerable. And God can handle anything. You can come to him in anger, you can come to him in excitement, anything. He
Yeah.
just is a good father who wants to commune. He wants that union with his sons and daughters. So I love that.
And this is so funny. We're talking about this today because I just had this conversation, with my daughter, and I see a lot of my old self, in her. She's like very type A. She swims, wants to go to the Olympic, right? Big goals, which is great. I love it. And she swims 6 days a week. I mean, it's a very intense sport if you know anything about swimming. So we're having this whole conversation. And she's like, Mom, I've been listening to these podcasts of these swimmers, and a lot of them swim on Sundays also, which would be the seventh day of the week. It's the only day she doesn't swim. So I was trying to explain to her, I said, listen, Carolyn, I said, my job as your mom is just to tell you the truth. Just to speak the truth in love, because I love you. So I'm always going to tell you the truth. I said, do you think that if you do things God's way, he will elevate you? I said, because that's the
Mm.
truth. And God is the one who brings the increase. And God tells us that we should rest on the seventh day. So this is such an important rhythm that I don't think many Americans are doing, because they feel like they're going to just, like you said, more and more and more.
Mhm.
And so I said, if God could create all of this in 6 days and he had to rest, I think in our humanness, we need to rest. But if you would see that if you would follow his way, that he would actually bless you, he would elevate someone like you and increase you.
Mm.
And she's kind of having this banter. She's like, what about Michael Phelps? Don't you think God used him? And I said, listen,
Mm.
I'm not responsible for him. I'm responsible for me and to teach you. And I just know in God's way. So I think that God doesn't suggest. It never in the Bible says, here's a suggestion to make your life better. It's a command.
Yeah.
And I think that we have been missing a reverence of God,
Mm.
that fear of God, that he's a loving God, but there's a fear that if I'm not following his ways, I'm going to miss out too on all
Mm.
that. So
Mhm.
I just, I think there's revival happening right now. I think it's an exciting time to be, but I also think that there's, God hates, and he says he hates, lukewarm.
Yeah.
And so there's a time where you've got to, be more bold. And,
Mm.
I want to challenge all of us, myself
Mhm.
included, all of us
Mhm.
listening, like to go to God and say, how can I be more bold for you?
Mm.
Just listen. It's going to look different for all of us. But I know it can be scary. I know it can be uncomfortable to be bold, but I believe we're in a season that he's calling
Mm.
and he's looking, right?
Mhm.
I forget where it is. It's my kid's Bible verse for the week, and I can't remember where it is in the Bible, but it talks about, it's like one of the saddest verses of how he is looking for someone to stand in the gap
Mm.
and he can find no one. So when we say God burdened my heart for something, there are so many things that he's like, man, I'm looking for someone to stand in the gap, to pray for this school, to pray for this generation, to
Mm.
pray for these students, to pray for their friends, to pray for their parents. It doesn't have to be some big thing. So standing in the gap, and he found no one. And so I just, that makes me sad to think about that. And so we
Mhm.
don't want that. We want to be the one that he is roaming his eyes and he's like, I can
Mhm.
count on her.
Mm.
And now I'm going to call. And we have to wait when he calls us to that, but then we're ready to step into it.
Right. And I think that there are women and men listening today that when Amy said that, you guys felt it in your heart. And we don't even have to share what it is. You already know what he's calling you to and what that active, bold obedience looks like to you. And so will we step up to that brave calling? And I know, Amy, you were sharing with me backstage that God has really called you to a bold act of obedience in stepping forward and proclaiming your faith in this season of life as an adult. So do you have a second? Will you tell us a little bit more about that and maybe even who that decision is for?
Yeah. So I was baptized when I was in middle school. I was saved. I remember at a middle school retreat, and I came home and I got baptized on Mother's Day. That's what my mom wanted. So it was for me, but it was also, partly for her.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said earlier, I lived so many years as just a selfish Christian, and kind of having one foot in the world and one foot in my faith, and not living God's way for sure. And then I rededicated myself back to my faith in my early 20s and started walking with the Lord again. But it was in what God could do for me. And so I lived that way for about a decade, and God blessed me. And let me tell you, if you have made some mistakes, because this chick right here, let me tell you, I have made a lot of mistakes. And I think God had to show me and bless me with these achievements to go,
Mm-hmm.
listen, I know that you've messed up. I'm still going to use you. It's okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still going to use you. So I just want you to know that God still can use you, even if you screwed up a lot. All right. He will. So, but I went through this whole decade of just seeking God and being in the word and dedicated, but for my own benefit. And then probably about, I think it was 2018, around that time, 2019, that God just pursued me. And it's so humbling, but I just love that our God pursues us. God always initiates, you guys. He always initiates us. And that's what he did. He put these people in my life, two women in particular in that season. I was kind of starting to go down an old bad path again, and he just intervened and he pursued. And I had been faithful, with him, but not in this way. And so he just grabbed my heart, you guys, and I just started going deeper. So that was the time where he was taking me from that shallow end to that deep end.
Mm-hmm.
And so for the last 2 years, my husband and I have been talking about getting rebaptized. And this recently, this past year, there was a major unexpected thing with my husband's job and just a lot of things that were happening. And we just felt this was the time. My son will be getting, baptized, but mainly, and we're going to share our testimony, but I just hope that it encourages people that even if you've been walking with the Lord a long time, that there is so much more. And so now I'm going from my prayer time of, God, can you help me with this? God, can you do this? And there's nothing wrong with that. I do want to say that because I still have prayers like that. I'm still asking God for things. Absolutely. But now I'm stepping into the space with him and saying, not what can you do for me? But what can I do for you? God, show me, give me the eyes and the ears to see what you're doing. I want to be a part of what you're doing in this earth, because we all are here for a time such as this. And he has a specific assignment for all of us. And those assignments will change. And I didn't always understand that. I was like, oh, I'm going to have one assignment forever. But God gives us these different assignments, and I don't want to miss it. So I'm like, God, what are you up to? I want to experience you in new ways, and I just want to be a part of whatever your mission is and your purpose is to build your kingdom. So, yeah, we're going to rededicate our lives, saying that's our perspective now in our faith.
I love it. I love it, Amy. There's so many of us, yes, that are stepping into this season of life and saying, all right, Lord, I know that way, and that way is not working anymore. And I want to join you where you are at work. And even like you said, they're having this epiphany of, what I thought was success isn't. It's not filling the need that I thought that it would. What does that look like, Lord? What does success look like when I'm walking hand in hand with you? And so for women that are listening, like, yes, everything that Amy is saying, I want to be refreshed. I want to walk closer to the Lord. I would love to be equipped, and I would love to have a community of women to journey with. What are some ways that they can plug in with you? Specifically in the next couple of weeks, Amy has something exciting coming up on October 4th that women from anywhere can plug into, right, Amy?
Yeah. So since 2019, I've been doing an annual retreat called Refresh. And the whole reason is that, like I said, for years, I've been doing events. And what God showed me was that when you even do like, a daytime event, it's good, but really removing yourself from your space and getting away for a couple of days. And I just want to say, I talked to a lot of, this is more for women than men, mom guilt. I don't think guys have that nearly as much. And so many women are like, oh, but can I be away? Can I be away? And I'm like, yes, you can. In fact, you will be a better mom. So I always ask people, do you want to be intentional in your life? Because you just don't show up. You're not going to just poof, show up as a better mom or a better wife or a better friend or better in your business, or a better leader. Like, it's just not going to happen. So when you remove yourself from the everyday noise and your schedule, your daily rhythm, and you just have one purpose, and that's to hear from God and to get breakthrough and revelation. And you are there for that and that alone. And also to be around other women that are sisters in building that. Because I think the best way to describe it, I think, is if you've ever been to a chiropractor, why do you go to a chiropractor? Because something's out of alignment. You need an adjustment. So really, the Refresh Retreat is to get you back into a life adjustment. Okay. It's to get your life back into alignment and to reevaluate. So it's kind of like taking a big magnifying glass and looking at every area of your life, looking at, are you going deeper in your faith, or are you just like playing it safe? Are there areas God's calling you to be bolder? Is your marriage a 7 and you want it to be a 10? What is that going to look like? So looking at all of that. So it's just a life adjustment. But on October 4th, for the first time ever, we are doing it virtually. And I don't want to even say virtually. It's more like hybrid style, where you can find a hub near you, or you could be listening right now and go, I'd love to have, a couple of people at my house and host it. And you can do that. It's kind of just like a small group, Cerise, right? Where you would like meet. So the rhythm of that is we are going to, we'll have some worship, you'll have some speakers, and then you have some discussion time wherever you're at. If you are plugging in virtual, we will have a virtual hub. So if you're like, I'm in Minnesota and there's no hubs in Minnesota, that's fine. We will have a virtual hub. So you'll still have a discussion group there. But our theme is moldable, and it's being in the potter's hand. So it's really about surrendering and trusting, kind of everything we've been talking about today. Like, it's not about what you want, but what if you just went in with like open hands, like, okay, God, what do you want to do? How do you want to shape me? Because we're going to come out so much better if we just literally let him shape, the life. But yeah, so that's what it's about. So October 4th, and you can register amyallgood.com. It's only $29. It's a free event I'm offering. It's not free because it costs to put it on. So we're just covering the cost. We really want it to be a gift for people this year as they finish up 2025, stepping in to 2026, which is my God number, by the way. That's another story. So it's going to be a great year. And also we are changing venues. So actually it's a little bit of a secret that I'm telling y'all that. So on October 4th, we're going to announce that, but we're going to announce our new venue for next year, which is really exciting.
Awesome. Amy, thank you. And y'all, we're going to put there's so much more that Amy and I could talk about, but we'll put links on how you can connect with Amy, how you can be a part of her community, the Bible study that they have that's coming up. We'll put all of that in there. And then of course the link so you guys can register and gather some women in your home and gather some women to be refreshed. I think there's many women that would love that. Amy,
if I can mention the fall book club too. This book I'm really excited about, y'all. Blessed Are the Spiraling, Levi Lesko. So, and that's something that'll happen later in October, but I'll give Cerise that information, but I'm really excited about that book as well.
Blessed Are the Spiraling. Anyone? Right?
I'm just the title. It's like, yes. Okay.
Yes, please click here. We're going to sign up. That sounds incredible. Plus we do know who Levi Lesko is. So incredible. Amy, thank you for your time. Thank you for your obedience. Thank you for sharing your story. Last question I always ask everyone, and I refer to our 10-year-old self because a lot of us, sometimes we can go back to that. Speaking into these women, if you could go back to your 10-year-old self and give her any hope, any wisdom, what would you say?
I would just say, be around people who are going to celebrate you and not tolerate you. Early in life, we try to please people, we try to impress people, and it's exhausting and it's a waste of time and energy. So I would just say, you know what, if when you're around people, if they make you feel good, those are your people. And if they don't, they're not.
I love it. Be around those that celebrate you and not just tolerate you. Mm-hmm. Amy, thank you. We are so grateful and I'm excited to be able to share you with my friends.
Yay. Thank you. This was such a blessing.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining me on this journey of restoration and renewal. Remember, you can stay connected with me between episodes by following me on Instagram. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to ensure you never miss an episode. And if you found value in our conversation today, I'd truly appreciate it if you leave a review on your favorite podcast platform or share the show with a friend who might benefit from these rhythms. Until next time, may you find peace in knowing that you can show up every day simply as you are. And that is enough. Take care.